All right, we are good to go. And today is an important day, a very important day. You know why? Because we're talking about you. We are talking about you, the most important person in the world. Who could be more important than you? And why are we talking about you? Because you're a hero and you just don't know it yet. You haven't thought about it enough, but I'm going to explain to you how you know that you're a hero and what you need to think about to achieve your wildest dreams. Sounds ambitious. Let's see if I can do it within 5 minutes. I bet you I can. I'm a pretty ambitious guy. Where we're going to start is with a Thomas Carlyle book. That's always where I tend to start. This book is called On Heroes and Hero Worship, one of his easier to access works. Now, in this book, Thomas Carlyle has about 6 chapters where he talks about all different types of heroes. The hero as divinity, where he talks about Odin, when people saw the hero among them as a god. The hero as priest, where he talks about, let's say, Martin Luther, where people saw the hero among them as somebody who preaches about God. The hero as poet, where he talks about Shakespeare, somebody who brings God to you through the written word. And he basically ends thinking of the hero as the captain of industry. Maybe that's the next thing. And I'd say we've had that era, but we're past that era. And so what's next? What's next is the hero as you. And it's a little contradictory to one of Carlyle's claims, but walking through it, I think you'll see how it works. So I came up with a simple sentence that's kind of sort of going to wrap all these ideas I'm about to throw at you into one handy rhyming sentence that you can use to remember how to achieve the hero within you. And that sentence is: admiration turns on the active imagination necessary to upgrade your role in the simulation. So let's say that again. Admiration turns on the active imagination necessary to upgrade your role in the simulation. Now, whether you believe it's a simulation or not, that's up to you, whatever you think about reality. But however you want to view reality, your role in it can increase through admiration and active imagination. Let's focus on the admiration part first. And here, I want to jump to an idea I got from Jordan Peterson. Now, what Jordan Peterson says about admiration is that it points towards a pattern of behavior that you find, let's say, useful in somebody else, and useful in the sense that it will help you rise up the hierarchy, whatever hierarchy you're looking towards. Your admiration is a signal that there's a pattern of behavior there that you need to follow. How do we know it's a signal? Well, let's think about overall the concept of God. God can be broken down into the ideal of how to live in the world, right? If you really read a holy religious text, it's sort of giving you a how to act plan, and how to act in accordance with God could be abstracted into how to act in accordance with the nature of reality. And in Peterson's line of thinking, he takes that first premise and takes it all the way up to the present day and thinks of the concept of a US president. Back in Egypt, the pharaoh was the man who was appointed by God and ruled over you with God's power backing him. And so you had a man representative in that role. But in modern day United States of America, you have a president. And the man of president changes all the time, changes every 4 years. And so the sovereignty that cultures used to put on the pharaoh has moved on to the sovereignty of the abstract role of president. And so that abstraction is thousands of years of human culture taking out what we consider the ideal of how to act in society and then putting it into this one role that switches hands all the time. And so admiration is something that was pointing towards that abstraction. So when you admire somebody, you're pointing towards their pattern of behavior as manifesting the ideal way to act in accordance with reality. Pretty like a little word salady, but it goes really well with Carlyle because what Carlyle is basically saying on Heroes and Hero Worship is that the person who was the hero, who was the king, was the closest representation of God's will on earth, right? And so that would have been Odin when he's talking about the hero as divinity. That would have been Luther when he's talking about the hero as priest, though I'm sure Catholics would debate that, myself included. But Carlo's frame of reference is the hero is somebody who's acting in accordance with God's will here on earth. Jordan Peterson's frame of reference is sovereignty belongs to the person who can best represent God's will here on earth in as abstracted of a representation as possible. And to you as a person, admiration is your key to pointing out how you can start to manifest that pattern with how you act, with all your different constraints and all your different possibilities. What you admire is a signal of the pattern you need to gain. Now, when we think back to Carlyle's book, that track, right, it goes from the hero as divinity, and we go smaller and smaller steps till we eventually get to basically the hero as business owner, right? And that's basically where Carlyle left off. In the Industrial Revolution, the hero is just a business owner, but a business owner at scale. Now we've moved to a world that is even more decentralized, and power is even more in the hands of the individual. Democracy is the natural state of government, which is different than Carlyle's world where democracy was a revolution, but turns out it's here to stay. And so, as an individual now living in the world, you sort of have to become your own hero with the way our government is set up, with the way our cultures are set up. You have to be your own sovereign individual. Well, you don't have to be, but it would be better for everybody if you are. And you can use admiration that you have for others as a signal for their heroic patterns, their representations of how God would want you to live on earth, whatever God means to you, right? I used the simulation before. You can sort of jumble in those terms as you need and use that as a way to change your behavior to manifest your reality in the way that's most beneficial to you. So let's take it back to that sentence. Admiration turns on the active imagination necessary to upgrade your role in the simulation. So now we talked about the admiration part of it. Let's talk about the active imagination part of it. So when you admire somebody, that's the signal of the pattern you need to manifest. How are you going to manifest that pattern? Are you just going to copy every single thing they do? It's not really how it works. In my last video, if you watch that, I talked a little bit about how practice works in Scott Adams' frame of reference. And what Scott Adams would say is practice is not about different iterations. Practice is actually about actively imagining a pattern that you can live out in reality. So we're trying to model patterns of behavior. And the thought that I'm trying to give you here is that the best way to do that is to get the input of what pattern of behavior you need to model through your admiration and to output that same pattern of behavior by actively imagining how you're going to do it. And if you go down more of Scott Adams' theories, you're talking about affirmations, you're talking about heavy visualization. And so when we combine these three thinkers, Carlyle, Scott Adams, and Jordan Peterson, and we take the thoughts on why you admire something, like Thomas Carlyle would say, the prime want of man is guidance in return for obedience. I just want to flip that a little bit, and I want to say the prime want of man is admiration in return for imagination. And so that's how we've sort of gone down the funnel of being obedient to a king, to being admirable not admirable to having admiration for a hero, and then instead of giving obedience, giving yourself the imagination to act out that pattern. So a little all over the place with the thoughts, but hope it makes sense. And I'll repeat that sentence one more time because I think that's really what's going to help it stick and combine all those concepts. So admiration turns on the active imagination needed to change your role in the simulation, or just in reality, however you want to put it. But simulation rhymes, so we'll go with that one. And you're a hero. Don't ever forget it. Just live it out now. It's that simple.